Let's go! Legion! 1, 2, 3, go!
Hi, and welcome to episode 11 of the Comic Con Community Podcast. And tonight we have a special horror takeover edition. My name's Will.
Hi, I'm Paul, and joining us today is our horror queen, Kim. Welcome, Kim.
Oh, you okay?
Hi,
Yeah,
Kim.
how are we tonight?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good, yeah.
So I think we should jump straight into it, as it's a horror podcast, is why we're here. At the end of the month, we've got something special. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
I've not heard about what's going on. What is it?
You
Not
tell us,
anything.
you tell us.
Only the thing I've spent the last 12 months planning. So we've got Horrorwood Haywood Horror Convention, third year coming back on the 28th of Feb, a Saturday this time rather than we've done a Sunday last 2 years. We're doing a Saturday this year. So that's what's going on at the end of the month. So thanks for having me on, lads. I'll see you later.
Yeah, we'll talk amongst ourselves for a bit.
Yeah. So as our listeners don't know, Kim runs her own events. She helps us. She's a director. She's a volunteer. She's a mum. So I think the question is where do you find the time? Basically, in the energy.
You know what, Paul? That is a question I get asked a lot from a lot of people because I do a lot of things, and in all these little different sections of my life, these things that are going on, each different group is like, where do you find the time? I guess I'm just a chronic overachiever. I need to be busy all the time, and if I'm not busy, I get really fed up and bored, and so I'm always looking for the next projects and the next kind of thing to throw myself into. I have Horrorwood is the one that takes up the bulk of the time over a longer period, and then in between that we have all these little things like a certain community Comic-Con that we get involved in, and I do a radio show. I also run like a wellness business as well. I do a wellness witch business, and I'm stocked in a few shops around Manchester and Lancashire. So and obviously I do my role in the NHS as well, which I've done for the last 15 years. So yeah, I'm a busy little bee, but I like it that way. That's what I prefer to be like.
Yeah, like you said, it is best to be busy because it does help with mental health, really, because you don't have to think too much. You just jump in and get into all these things.
Yeah, I find when
that's
I'm
good.
not busy, that's when I do start to get like really fed up. You're too much thinking time. You don't need it. You need to
No.
just crack on and get projects doing, and creative endeavors I think make a massive difference to how you feel upstairs. So the more creative stuff I do, yes, I'm busy and yes, I get tired, but it feels less arduous than doing all the boring stuff. If that makes any sense.
So let's start off jumping in with Horrorwood. So you said it was Horrorwood 3. So 1 and 2, how did they go? How did they come about? How did they go?
So the first one started off as initially we were going to do, when I say we, I mean me and Chris, my other half. He's also a director of Distant Screams. He's more a silent partner than he is an active one, but he's there on the day. He does all the heavy lifting for me. That's his role, and he's quite happy with that. So yeah, we started off with the idea of doing like an alternative market with a few kind of props. I had a couple of props in mind that I'd like to try building ourselves. So we put the social media post out, traders, we're looking for traders, and then basically it just went mad. It was like there were hundreds and hundreds of people like, oh, this is amazing, this is exactly what the town needs, and we had more traders than we could fit in the place that we were going to use, like a conservative club or like a working men's club type place. And then it just went mental. So we quickly realized we were going to need a bigger boat, and so we went to a bigger venue in Haywood, probably the best one available at the time, biggest one available at the time. That's a sports centre. And yeah, it just snowballed, and I knew in my heart all along that there was a market for it, and there was a customer base out there, and there was a group of people just like me that liked all the weird and wonderful, dark and spooky stuff. And we tend to just hide in the hide in the cracks in the pavement. We don't tend to come out unless there's something to come out for. And that was really what it was all about, giving people a reason to come out and celebrate those things that they enjoy and get together with other like-minded weirdos like themselves and like me. So yeah, that was the first year. It was amazing. We had something like 600 people through the door on the first year, which was just mind-blowing for such a small town and a first time venue. So that was really, really good. And then we put a post out to say, what do you reckon doing it next year? What do people think? And everyone was like, yeah, let's do it again. Really enjoyed it. So then we did a second year and had an amazing time. Made a few new friends, met a few new people. Craig Quinn, who you had on the podcast the other week, he came to talk about his films and ended up staying all day, and he was having a whale of a time. And if you look back through his social media, there's loads of selfies of him like running, and he had a great time. So I thought, if I can, he makes horror movies for a living, and if he's having a good time, then we're doing something right. And then again, put the feedback out. Year 2, how did everyone feel? What should we do? And then the call came to do it all over again, and here we are, a couple of weeks off year 3. So it's been a journey, but it's been amazing.
And it's hard work.
Oh, yeah. I'm not shy of hard work. I love a bit of graft, but it's hard work because there's so many different elements and so many people to consider, and so many things that could go wrong, things you could get wrong. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I think in the 3rd year now, there's lessons been learned, and there's now quite a template and a structure of, we know this works, so we'll stick to doing that this way. This doesn't work, so let's try something different this year. So the more you do it, the more you kind of figure out what works and what doesn't, and then you've got like a copy and paste kind of version of the event that you can dip into, whilst trying to remember that you don't want to just churn out the same stuff every year, because it's such a small convention. People will notice, and very quickly, if it gets a bit samey and a bit boring. So yeah, you've got to keep it fresh, and that's where the hard work comes into it. I've got mind on overdrive. I've got a million ideas, but I don't have £1 million budget to make them come to life. So not only are you dealing with what can we do that's different, how can we keep it affordable for the community that we built it for in the first place, and that's the balancing act. And that's where lessons have been learned. The first year we did literally everything ourselves to keep the costs down, which did keep the costs down, but it also meant it was so labor intensive. We did everything ourselves, down to handwriting the envelopes for the tickets and posting them, physically going to the post office and posting them myself on my dinner break. So there was a lot more work in the early days, and we've kind of tapered that off because we know what we can get away with not having to do, and what we need to do more of. So yeah, there's a big learning curve, and it is a lot of work.
I think that's what's a good thing of having you on, is because, like I said, people just go to these conventions, but they don't know the background. They don't know what goes into it. People just think you hire a building, you put a Facebook post out saying any traders want to come, and happy days, it's all glory. Yeah, you just send a few emails off to guests and said, do you want to come? Thank you, and that's it. It's not that hard. Kim, what are you talking about?
I think it's important as well that people, so not only people that go as customers understand just the passion and the love and the work that goes into bringing these events together, but other organisers or other people thinking about having a go, I would encourage anybody to have a go, but understand the process, because we've come across in the few years that we've been doing it, so many people that basically tell you, I could do that, I could do that, I could put on a bigger event. We had a guy say, well, we're gonna hire this building in the town, and we're gonna put a bigger and better. And I said, go for it, absolutely, crack on. Yeah, I'll come along, I'll buy a ticket and I'll enjoy it if it's worth enjoying. But and of course it never comes to fruition, because the minute they start looking at licenses with the council, events notices, insurance, all these things that they don't even think about, then it's like, maybe it's not as simple as all that. And that was a learning curve for me as well, because I was one of those arrogant people that thought, it's easy, this, and anyone can put an event on. No, they really
Well, you
can't.
think about it like buying a house. You're buying a house, it's not just simple as putting a deposit down.
This is it.
You've got the insurance, you've got buildings, you've got this, you've got content, you've got all these things that all come in, all the figures. Now times that by 1,000 or maybe more, there's your Comic Con.
Yeah, this is it, and the insurance is the big thing as well. People don't realise you've got to be on the ball with this kind of thing, and there are some that don't. There are some event organisers out there that kind of fly by the seat of the pants and hope nothing happens, and hope, you know. I've been to events like that where you thought, well, I'm not sure they've done a risk assessment here, you know, and you're looking at stuff and you're like, oh my god, like panicking, and glad that it's not your event. So yeah, there's a lot to consider, and when you're building a community, especially a lot of our patrons that come to Horrorwood and some of the other kind of like little alternative markets, they're in like a minority or a marginalized group. They're usually people of an alternative lifestyle, and a lot of them have had a lot of traumatic experiences going to big public events because of just the way people are, you know. People get hassled and that kind of thing. So for us, building an event that was a safe space for everybody to come to comes with a lot of paperwork to make sure that you're doing it the right way and that everybody is genuinely safe physically, spiritually, mentally, you know, all these things that you have to think about. And yeah, it's a lot of work. But when we finished the first Horrorwood, like a day or two after, Chris and I sat when we were kind of digesting what we'd done and what we needed to change and stuff. And it was Chris that said it feels like we were at somebody else's event. It doesn't feel like, you know, you're like, we did that, you know, we've achieved that. And it's a weird feeling. The very first kind of biggish event that you're doing, you do kind of feel like you're looking at it from the outside. But essentially that's what I wanted. I've said all along, I wanted to put on an event that I would want to go to as a fan and see the things that I would like to see and have the interactions that I would like to have. And that I feel, you know, that we've achieved a big portion of that, really.
Well, that's where the community would see. If you put on a fake one, they can see it straight away.
Of course they can.
And plus, you're not going to enjoy it yourself. And if you're not going to enjoy it yourself, you don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you come away from it and you can say, hand on heart, that was amazing and it's brilliant, and oh God, I love that, then it's worthwhile doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as an organizer, you don't always indulge yourself in that way. You don't always get involved on the day because there's so much else you need to be doing. And so it's only afterwards when you see other people's social media posts and comments and messages and emails and stuff, and you think, yeah, it was, you know, it was a good day and everybody did have a great time, and you can really kind of lean into enjoying it a little bit more the second time round and the third time round. So yeah.
So what I'd like to do is take back to Little Kim, how this like kind of all started. What made you get into horror? What was it about horror? When did it first like click? When did it start?
I feel like
obviously when we was younger, like we couldn't really watch it, but we did do kind of thing, you know what I mean? We had these 18s, but we snuck them on when we was 12 and 13 on the VHS or whatever.
that you'd borrowed off your mate's dad or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. You couldn't walk into Blockbusters and do it yourself, so you had to find ways.
I feel like you should be sat there with a big red book now. You know, what was that? This is your life. Remember that? Yeah.
No, This is your life. That's it. Yeah.
The last one, was it? Someone like
that's
that.
The one, yes.
Big red book out. Yeah, feels a bit like that. But I think, I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but a little while ago we were approached by a company to do like a mini documentary about Horrorwood and the beginnings of it all. And it was part of a bigger initiative about creatives from Haywood specifically, called the Haywood Pioneers film series. And they were kind of going into all this sort of stuff. And I was talking to the film crew guy about what got me into it, and I was showing him pictures of old Halloween costumes and stuff like that from when I was a kid. And I would say that I credit my dad a lot for my love of horror, because he was always into like the old Hammer horrors. He loved like Boris Karloff's Mummy and Christopher Lee's Dracula and all those kind of.
That's me.
Yeah. And, even to a certain extent, he's a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. So even things like the Hound of the Baskervilles episode, or like the film that they made with Basil Rathbone, I think was the original Sherlock, like back in the day, all in black and white. And that was kind of like a bit tense and a bit spooky. And so I remember my dad having such an enthusiasm for these sort of things. And as I sort of got a little bit older, it would be the thing that you would do with your mates. You'd go to their house and you'd sneak a copy of, I think the first movie that I ever watched that I knew I shouldn't have watched, and I wish I hadn't at the time because it scared the life out of me, was Demons.
Oh, yeah.
The original, yeah. So we were at a sleepover at a friend's, and I was probably about, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that. And she was like, oh, my dad's got this film and it looks like really cool on the cover, and she put it on. It was like the worst night of my life. It scared me to death. And I watch it back now and I'm like, this is terrible. Why did this ever? But as an 11, 12-year-old kid, I was like, this is terrifying.
Well, I'll tell you something now that I don't think I've ever told anybody, but Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Oh,
That
yeah.
scared the bejeebies out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it started me. I was like, not watching that ever again. And I'm not joking. Yeah, my mum had to go to the video store to buy the making of Thriller to show me that it wasn't real.
It wasn't real.
Don't forget, because I was only a kid at the time when it came out. You see.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I didn't know Michael Jackson's music or anything like that. I just saw this video and yeah, it scared the bejeebies out of me. Because that video was like a movie, if you remember it.
Yeah,
It wasn't just like
well.
a 2-minute singing video and that was it. This was like, I can't remember how long it was, but it might have been 10 minutes or something. But it was like a short movie.
Yeah, proper feature. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember it really well.
So
I
don't know how it started, when it was on TV or what, but I was just flicking through. I can't remember. But yeah, I just remember it scaring the bejeebies out of me. I think they were my first nightmares ever.
Yeah, but that's a testament to how well it was made, because essentially it's just a music video, isn't it? But it was so well scripted, and the story behind it was like a movie of the time. And I think we've all had those experiences, haven't we? Like I said, Demons was the first one. I think I remember consciously watching and making a choice to kind of, even though I knew it was a bit wrong and I was too young for it, consciously choosing to watch it. Prior to that, when I was much younger, it would be like coming down for a drink in the night, and my stepdad would be watching Hellraiser or something, and you just a few little snippets of it when you walk in the room, like, my god, this is horrifying, shut the door, and then spend all night in your bed like, oh my god, what have I just seen? So, and in fact, even it took me years and years and years to watch Hellraiser all the way through as an adult, because of a few little snippets I'd seen as like a 7-year-old kid. It horrified me to death. Now I watch them back and I love them.
That's what I said, but it didn't scare you away, did it?
No, it didn't.
Like my wife can't watch horror because of that. But you jumped into it.
When you talk to horror fans, you do find that everybody's got like a movie that kind of got them into it, and there's a very distinct type of groups, I feel, of people, like you said, that are totally put off it and just go, I can't, this is not for my brain, I can't. And then there's the other side that go, yeah, that was terrifying. I need a bit more of that. I need to be more, what's more scarier than that, or what's, and it's kind of pushing that boundary.
Because we're nuts.
Yeah.
Pushing my wife says, why do you want to watch a film and you're like this, or jumping, or running, like with the pillars? You're not really watching it. But you're like that behind the pillar going, I'm still watching.
Something slightly scary on the TV. For me, it was to cover my ears, because it was the atmospheric music that frightened me. So I could watch what was going on, but I had to kind of, like, if I couldn't hear the whistling wind or the creaky
floor. It's the anticipation, isn't it? The knowing it's coming. When's it coming? Is it now? Is it now? And then it still gets you and you go, oh!
Exactly, yeah, exactly that. We all have our own little coping mechanisms, and for me as a kid, it was to kind of, like, if I can't hear it, then I'm all right.
Like I said, we talked, as you say, we talked to Ashley Lister, we talked to Craig, as you mentioned. And my interest of the horror was the point of view of, what scares them, in the sense of, do they like the jump? Do they like the gore? So it'd be interesting to see what your point of view is in that. Do you like the jumpiness of it, or do you like the psychological of it?
I'm going to get a little philosophical, a little deep here. What I really love about horror, be it movies, books, TV, whatever it is there's always an underlying social commentary in horror. That's it's always been the case. Some of the original zombie movies, things like Night of the Living Dead and stuff like that, there's this social commentary that the monsters aren't really the monsters, it's the humans that have survived the monsters that are the real monsters, and there's that kind of undertone of holding a mirror up to yourself and holding a mirror up to society, and just what kind of depths people can go to. And I find that fascinating. Some movies push that boundary a little too far, and there's some stuff that I just can't get on board with and I just won't watch. Because I just don't get into that kind of thing. But I feel like holding a mirror up to society and saying that, you know, these stories of horror and these ideas of these terrible things happening to people, they come from real life places in a lot of circumstances, and that makes it very raw. And I just find it fascinating. I find that whole kind of psychology of it fascinating.
Like you're gone saying you like the story, then it's like Freddy Krueger, what happened to him, or like Michael Myers as a child and stuff like that. There's a story, there's a
Yeah.
background. It's not just somebody walking around with a knife chopping up people. The end. That's it.
Yeah, there's always a backstory. There's always an origin, and sometimes, you know, with some of the biggest movie villains, they're not really the bad guys. They were normal guys who had bad things happen to them, and that's their outlet now. That's how they've chosen to deal with that. You know, not so much horror, but if you look at the Joker, for example, the Joker, throughout any storyline that he's been in Batman, has always been a kind of an everyday, you know, an every guy who was pushed too far. And then he makes it his mission to do the same, to see just how much someone can take before they break and before they become like he has. And I just find that whole idea, fascinating. I do.
Well, I know it's going off horror, but it's like Lex Luthor. You know, he's trying to warn the world of Superman, of we can't stop him. But in the story comes a bad guy. But technically, he's just trying to protect the Earth himself by saying, hey guys, if this guy has a bad day, we are done.
Well, there was the movie, wasn't there, Brightburn, that was made, which was basically, I don't know if you've seen Brightburn, but it's basically that concept, isn't it? If this being decided that he wanted to be, you know, not a very nice person, then there's not a lot you could do about it. He'd be totally at his mercy. He's just all powerful, and there's really nothing you can do. And I liked that. I enjoyed that concept of that movie. I thought it was pretty clever. And I've always said things like The Walking Dead, for example. So you know, we as an audience or as a reader, because I've read the comics for years before you know, the TV show was ever made, and you read the comics mainly from Rick's perspective, or from his group's perspective at least. And so Rick he's the guy, he's the leader, and he's the hero. And then especially when Negan's brought into it, you know, the scene with Glenn, I won't make any spoilers, I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about, but I won't say it anyway. That was the first time reading, because I read that before I ever saw them bring it to life in the show, and I read it, and it was the first time I have physically dropped a comic book, because I was like, oh my god, what, you know, what the hell? And so because of that, Negan's this terrible person, and you know, he's like you know, he's an anti-hero all the time. But I've always argued that if you went back to the start of the comics and you started following Negan and the Saviors from day one, he'd be the good guy, he'd be the hero. Because if you look at what Rick and his team have had to do to survive, Rick ain't a good guy. He's not a good person. And most of the people he's spent all his time hanging around with have had to do terrible things. And he's made terrible choices to survive, essentially making him a bad guy. So it's all about perspective. If you would have been with Negan from the beginning, Negan would have been your hero, and it'd have been Rick's that you'd have been booing, you know, because of what he did at the satellite station and stuff. And you just think it's this perspective. Now, I'm not saying it's as nuanced as that with like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, for example. You can't, I don't think you can sympathise with Jason Voorhees. Well, you can, I suppose. You can sympathise with him before he became the hacker slasher, you know, when he was just a poor little kid. And again, that's that backstory. He was made that way by the actions of other people, and it was essentially out of his control. So there's such a psychological element to even the hackiest of movies when it comes to horror. That's how I feel about it anyway.
And like I said, horror's brought into, like I said, the documentaries of the serial killers and stuff like that. A lot of horror fans like that because, it, like you said, of the in-depth of what it tells you, the story about them. So even though there's a gruesome parts of it, people still watch these documentaries because they want to know the story. They want to know the background. It's that psychological of why did he do this, and that's what people can't understand. So they watch these documentaries and they still don't understand, but it kind of still gives them that depth into it.
Yeah, and I think because there's been such a resurgence in that kind of thing, a lot more people know a lot more about those types of people than they ever would have done before. I watch a lot of serial killer stuff, a lot of true crime stuff, because I find it fascinating. And I sit there and I think, I can't understand why somebody would do that. And then I remind myself, it's a good thing I don't understand why somebody could do that, because if I understood it, I could sympathise and I could maybe even try to justify, and that would make me the sociopath. So there's certain things that you think, I'm glad I can't wrap my head around this. I'm not meant to.
So what do you think of like horror films or the way the horror direction's going now?
So I think it's like a big old circle, in it. It's
Because
like
when we went back, like I said, when I was speaking to Craig, in the 80s and 90s, we were blessed. We were blessed.
Yeah. I think we were in a lot of ways, not just horror, with pretty much all the media that we had available to us back in the day. Then, you know, the Saturday morning cartoons and that kind of stuff. We had access to.
Was it because we didn't have social media though? Because
No,
like if you go back once, so like I said, I watched Christopher Lee because I only had them channels, and at midnight they put an old Dracula on.
Yeah.
So you'd watch it. Where now, if I'm up at midnight, I'll just be strolling on my phone. I won't be flicking through for that old horror. So it could have been that.
I think there's a big element to that, and I think social media has made us very lazy in the way we consume things, because we can consume so much all the time. It doesn't really matter what we're watching anymore. I'm terrible for it. We'll stick a film on, or even worse than a film, I will watch a YouTuber play a video game, not even play the game myself. I will watch somebody else play it whilst going like this on my phone, not even watching him play the thing. So we just consume en masse so much, and I think that's altered horror. That's changed the way people are desensitized a lot more now than they would have been, 20, 30 years ago. Even the news itself is now more horrific than some horror movies would have been 20 years ago, and that's just your average everyday daytime TV. So we're desensitized, and I think horror has had to evolve so much to still give you that sense of, fear or jump scare or, repulse or whatever it is that you want to get out of a horror movie. They've got to work a lot harder now, I think, to get that reaction out of people.
But I think with the media as well, I think it's come to light a lot more because there's a lot of scarier things happening on the news and stuff like that. So because it's come real life, because we're adults now and we know it's actually real life, and there's a lot more scary stuff out there. That wasn't the case back then. Even though, like I said, we did believe it. We knew it was out there. Not saying it was safer, but it's more tension now on the news and stuff. So
yeah, I'd agree with that, and that makes making a truly scary film really difficult these days. People don't scare that easy anymore.
No, and that's what's good. Like I said, with the media, what Will does with the board games, because Will taking the board games, bringing people together again. You're not on your phones. You're not on the TV. You're in a room. You've got people, community around playing board games, and I think that's important. What Will's doing.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll take that.
No, he's absolutely spot on there.
Yeah. So just to bring you into Will, what kind of horror is there? Horror board games around? I mean, I remember Atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean,
with the video HT. Yeah.
There's one just there that's Horrified. I mean, horror is my favorite genre anyway, but yeah, I've got loads. There's this one in particular actually. No, it's not that one. I don't know where it is. Well, there's one called Escape the Dark Castle. Oh, it's there. No, it's not. Which side is it? Oh, I can't find it. No, it's here.
He's got that many board games. He doesn't know where it is.
I'm just going to show you this one because it's like the old 80s books. It's very thematic. So it's the game itself. The gameplay's average. You're just rolling dice against like monsters and stuff. But the way it works is it's like a book. So each card is like a different page in the book, and as you can see, like the graphics are just it's very old fashioned, like not old fashioned, but like the 80s books you used to get with the terrible
like
drawings and choose your own kind of thing. So you've got all these monsters in that, and you're fighting them, and it actually says on it, it's not suitable for like younger children because some of the descriptions on the cards, they're a bit detailed.
And if I was a kid, I'd be picking that one because it said not suitable for children.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, I love horror board games, but there's so many. I mean, probably my favourite one.
Do they still make horror board games then?
Oh, loads. Yeah, absolutely loads. There's one called Zombicide, which is just here, and that's a zombies one, as you can see. And they've done about probably 7 or 8 different versions of it. There's even a Marvel one. There's a Marvel Zombies. there's all these different versions, and basically you're fighting the zombies. It's a bit like The Walking Dead, I suppose. So you've got a group. It's a cooperative game. You've got a group of heroes, and you're kind of fighting against the zombies. So the zombies kind of play automatically by the game, so they attack you and you attack them, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, I love the horror genre.
So the horror
Definitely
genre
my
is
favourite.
big in the board games. Then.
Oh, it really is. It really is. There's so many, and as you can
That's
see, there's a Buffy, legendary Buffy there, which is
Oh yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I love the horror. Got loads. Yeah.
Awesome.
So going
I
back
can't
to
wait
you,
to
Kim.
see that. Yep.
What's your favourite, like Dracula, werewolves, zombies?
I would say if we're going for monsters, it's zombies. I've delved so much into the realm of the undead. It's deemed as unhealthy. I think I love. I just love everything about it. I think. I'll be honest, it was probably Resident Evil, the very first,
I love
the
Resident Evil,
pixelated
yeah.
blood, the very, and what I loved about that was the live action intro sequence with the real life actors running through the forest into the mansion, and it was so like, you were like, oh my God, and then you get in the mansion, and that for me kicked off a real love of anything and everything zombie. Like I said, I read The Walking Dead comics, absolutely adored them. Just zombies, anything zombie, I'm all in.
See, I was all zombies, which I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, until there was a film which I couldn't remember what it was called, when they picked up machine guns and they had a leader with a brain, and they were following him out the water with machine guns, and I thought, no, no more zombies for me.
That's too much.
What have they done? What have they done?
Sounds like
But then look.
to me.
Yeah, but then luckily Walking Dead came, so it kind of brought it back
Yeah.
to what we enjoyed in the 80s and 90s. But yeah, that did it for me from there. But I was always, like I said, vampire films until Twilight. Twilight ruined that for me. But
never really been not really been big into vampires. Werewolves, I like a good werewolf movie. I like a good creature feature, a monster.
I think they're finding it hard now to reinvent like Dracula again, because people might just go, oh, Dracula again. But they did so many in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever got boring, to be fair.
No,
and then they did Bram Stoker's Dracula, and
which I think with vampires and Dracula and stuff like that, there's so many different types, isn't there? There's so many different levels of what people class as a vampire. So you've got your classics like your Dracula and your Christopher Lee sort of stuff, and then you've got your sparkly Twilight, which I've never watched, so I can't disagree.
Never understood it, but
never watched it.
I have seen it, but never understood it.
But there's so many
soon as he started twinkling, I turned it off. But
and then when you watch stuff like Underworld and Blade, you've got these real kind of kick-ass, like amazing vampires and vampire hunters, and then obviously Underworld brings in the Lycans, the werewolves as well. So I don't think you can overdo it on that sort of stuff. It's just choosing what kind of character you want them to be. The BBC did a brilliant Dracula. I think it was like a 3-part miniseries, and it was like sort of brought into the modern day, but it was an original style of Dracula, the very kind of suave, sophisticated looking, dapper gentleman type count of a Dracula, and it was really, really good. And that, for me, that reignited like, oh yeah, vampires are pretty cool, aren't they?
The Vampire Diaries is very popular.
Yeah, I've never watched it. I've never watched it, so I know it's massively popular, and there's been an extremely big convention this last weekend. Purely and all that. So and for the fans of that, I'm sure it was probably one of the best weekends of their lives. I've never watched it, so I didn't get what all the fuss was about. But yeah, if it's your thing, then I'm sure they've had a great time. I've seen a few clips of that. They all looked a little bit too what's the word, preppy for me. A little bit kind of.
It's like a bit like High School Musical, but the vampires.
That's the gist that I got.
You've got a 900-year-old vampire going to high school, and I'm thinking, if I'm a 900-year-old vampire, I'm not going to go to high school.
No,
because how many times has he been to high school in the 900 years? And the
I've
one
been
thing
trying
I'm
to
not
be
going to go is go, oh, do you know what? I'm that bored. I'm going to go again. So
I
that's the
saw
concept I don't like about it, because you're like thinking, if you're putting yourself in that set time and you've lived for, I don't know if it's 900 years, but say it's 100 years, I'm
yeah.
still not gonna go, do you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm gonna go and enroll back into high
But
school.
you just wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't. I saw something on the internet. Oh, it's cropped up a few times, and it's talking about vampires. And then someone, it was like a Reddit thread, and someone had said, why is it in these movies vampires are always like mega wealthy and they live in big mansions and stuff like that? And the responder put, well, if you've been alive for 900 years and you're broke, just walk into the sun. You're clearly doing wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's difficult for movie directors or movie producers or whatever to do werewolves, because it's that transition.
Yeah.
To get that right, it must give you such a headache that you go, do you know what? I'm not going to do the film.
Because and there will be people that will be so militant about it, like, oh, they wouldn't do that, and the fur wouldn't sprout from here, and they wouldn't, like it's a real thing that can happen to people. I think once you've seen an American Werewolf in London and you've seen that trend, nothing beats that. Nothing, no amount of CGI, no amount of AI, no amount of special effects beats that. It was perfectly done. It was disgusting. It was horrifying. You felt
bones breaking. Yeah.
You were just like, this is a thing that's happening to this guy, and he's just, it's horrendous, and it was absolutely brilliant. And then after that, you've got Dog Soldiers, and you can't top that for general werewolf goodness. It's the best werewolf movie that's ever been made, in my opinion.
And I think, do you know what? I think that'll be a problem now in the sense of the CGI. I think that would ruin it, because they would do it. They would just go, let's go CGI, and then they'll make it massive, like they did with the Hulk. I think they went too much, and then they went, oh, we'll make him smart, and they're just like kind of messing about with it and ruining it, and it's like, come on, guys.
You can't beat practical effects, and I think that is more important in horror than in any other genre of movie. If you've got good practical effects in a horror movie, it doesn't matter if the story's a bit naff. You're going to get that visceral response because it's real stuff. It's real. You've got someone like Tom Savini, who's made a career out of making all these crazy monsters and creations and special effects, and long before CGI or AI was ever a thing, and made stuff look real and made stuff believable. And in horror, you need that physical connection. I would much rather see buckets and buckets of fake blood than CGI arterial spray. I would much rather, because it's real. It feels more real, and it gives it a realism, and it gives it that kind of icky, like, oh god, I bet that's, you can just feel that it's sticky and gross, and So I think you've got to have good practical effects in horror movies, and that's why some of the lower budget stuff is often a lot better, because they've got no choice. They don't have big producer budgets, they don't have big studio budgets, so they've got no choice but to get creative and figure out how they can make the blood spray in this way, or how they can make the ribs crack open in this way, and that's what makes it more believable and more engaging. I'm a huge fan of practical effects.
Well, like Craig said, in Manchester, 3 o'clock in the morning with 10 pints of fake blood all over you in the freezing cold. They're not doing that in Hollywood, are they?
Absolutely not.
Rainy Manchester, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're covered in blood. Wonderful.
Manchester at 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning, isn't it?
So let's go back to, like, when did you sit down with Chris and say, right, this is what we're doing? We're going to do distant screams. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Where did that all start, or how did the process, happen?
It was a conversation that we had around coming up for Christmas. So we put the first Horrorwood on in the April, and so sort of October, November time, it had been Halloween, and we were in that kind of frame of mind, and we were just chatting, and it's something I felt like I'd always wanted to do, and I don't know how. I really don't remember how it came about. I was just like, I really want to do this thing, and Chris has this amazing ability to just say, well, go on then. Do it.
Do it.
Let's do it.
Perfect man.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Just let the wife do whatever she wants. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. When I come up with some real out there stuff, he's like, That's not going to happen. But yeah, so I was just like, oh, I think it'd be really great to do such and such. And he was like, well, yeah, well, why don't we then? And like I said, we advertised. I thought, well, we'll just do it as a little market. We'll build a few props. And so it was, so what we're now, 2026, so 25, 24. So it was like October, November 2023. And then when we realised that it was going to be quite a bit bigger than we expected it to be, I thought, well, we need to kind of do something proper with this and create a company. So we created Distant Screams, and we're incorporated as a limited company and stuff, just to protect us and our IP and stuff more than anything else. So so about 2023, late 2023 was when we first came up with it.
So you mentioned that you do the radio and you help other community comic cons, but how do you keep Distant Screams alive? Do you do anything else? Like I say, you've got your Horrorwood, but do you do like little pop-ups? Do you do anything else? Just to keep the momentum, to keep the name alive, and
yeah, sure. Yeah, we do. We've done a couple of like alternative fairs. We did a Creepmas market, like a goth Christmas market. So when we're not doing Horrorwood or a convention of sorts, we do more smaller scale alt markets just to keep our toes in the water and keep those conversations with the traders open and stuff like that. But the majority of what we do is for other people now. So we get involved in other events and we'll take props and sets to other events and just keep the name kind of circulating in those areas. Yeah, I would love to do what some of the big companies do and put a convention on like every other week. But
yeah.
It's just
You say that, but would you really? Because of the time, the effort.
I really don't think I would. I mean, if we were making millions and millions of pounds on it, then I think I could push myself. But I think for the kind of thing that the beauty in what we do, I feel the beauty in what we do is the community feel to it. The fact that it's grassroots and there is still people going about the big boys and the big companies that do all this stuff and you can't compete. I hear it all the time and it's like, well, we're not trying to. That's not what we want to do. We want, there is still room for grassroots, like your board game club that's for me is a real grassroots kind of thing to do in the community, and there's still room for stuff like that. Of course there is.
Of course there is, yeah.
It is, if you want to compete with the bigger companies and you want to put on bigger shows and you want to expand your board game empire or whatever it is that you're doing, then fine, but then you are competing and then you've got to accept that some of them are going to be better at it than you are, some of them are going to have more money than you've got, and that's a whole different arena. I feel that our homegrown kind of community version, which is how it started out and how I intend to keep it, it was for the people of Haywood and surrounding areas to be able to indulge in something like that without having to travel into Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool, London, into any of the big cities, and without the price tag that's attached to that kind of thing. So I think that's where our strengths are, and that's how we intend to keep things.
I think that's what's important, though, is to, like you said, keep it real, and to tell our listeners that, yourself, ourselves, we're not here to be millionaires. We're not here to make the big bucks. We're not here to take on the big boys. We're not here for that. We're here to give back to the communities. Like you said, bring it back to the 80s, to the 90s, when you can go and find that comic book, when you can go and play that board game that you played as a kid. When you can go and play that video game, it's not always just about the big Hollywood stars or the guest or stuff like that. It's about, like I said, go to yours and get scared, like you did when you was a kid.
Yeah.
That is the community spirit, that is the community feel, and I think that's it. And I think that's what goes with your Horrorwood, because straight away you can see the ticket prices. It's not saying, hi guys, come and pay 50 quid and we're going to jet off to Thailand for a holiday after this.
I wish.
We're going to the Maldives. You know what I mean? It is basically just... It is just basically, we're just charging a little small fee because we've obviously got to pay for the venue, we've got to pay for this, we've got to pay for props, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. So you've got to obviously cover your own costs. It's not supposed to come out of your pocket, but you try and keep it minimal so then, again, everybody can enjoy it.
I would hate to think that we were putting on a show that people loved but couldn't afford to go to. That's just not what we're about.
Well, that's
And
not community, is it?
no, it's not. It's profiteering. And the thing is, we are a registered limited company, and on paper, we are meant to be making, turning over a profit and all this. And I've got a meeting with our accountant next month for our end of year things, and he's going to look at me and go, "What are you doing? What's going on?" Because we make enough to make the things happen. That's what it's all about.
Says you have a budget, yeah.
Yeah, and well, I'm not really good at like
You're supposed to have a budget.
Who's got a budget these days in this
Oh,
economy?
no,
Who's got a budget?
No.
But we do. I think a lot of it is we do the work ourselves. A massive portion. Yes, I could pay a media manager to do all the social media posting, so I'm not still awake at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to come up with witty lines to put on Facebook. But then that would defeat the object, because one, that's not me, it's not coming from me, and people would know. I feel like I put a lot of my own kind of personality, and anyone that knows me outside of Horrorwood would know that if it wasn't me posting, do you know what I mean? They'd be like, that doesn't sound like him. So I think there's that element that you lose that authenticity, and you lose that connection that you've got with people. And just the fact that I enjoy that. I enjoy what we do. I enjoy getting involved and rolling my sleeves up and being, boots on the ground and getting on with it. And that's what makes it a community con. And I was looking through some of the comments on Instagram, a post that I put on about the food vendors that we've got, and someone had seen the cake lady we've got come in, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I finally get to try some of these cakes. I've been following you for ages." And so there's that little element, and then this whole conversation started then, and I can't remember what they said. I said something along the lines of, we're small but we're mighty, and our hearts are in the right place. And the person replied, "That's why the smaller cons are best, because it's like meeting up with family rather than going to a convention." And I thought, that's exactly what we want. That's how I want people to feel. I want people to walk through the sports hall doors, especially people that have been there from year one that are now on their third year. I want them to walk in and feel like, oh yeah, that it's familiar, and that they, oh wow, I haven't seen you since last year, and all this kind of.
Like
and
you said, there's the cake lady.
Exactly. That's what we want.
We're gonna have to try these cakes.
I know we're gonna have to find these cakes. Well, we're gonna have to find them.
They better be good.
I'm so excited. She's gonna do. We've got like a little mascot, like a zombie monkey with a Distant Screams t-shirt on, a mascot character that we had made ages ago. So she's gonna make some cakes with that on. And she said that half of whatever she makes on those is going to go to the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. So even the traders are on board, and the traders are behind the ethos. They want us to be able to achieve that goal of getting the Sophie Foundation as much as we can. And so, and these are business owners. These are people. That's her profit essentially. But she believes in what we want to do, and she believes in the charity, in the foundation, and she wants to put something back into that. So it's amazing that we've got that sort of community that are willing to do that. And we've not asked for that. People have come to us and said, how can we help? How can we raise more money? How can we do this and that? So yeah, it's a beautiful thing to bring people together for a shared purpose.
Well, now you've bigged her up, they better be good, because me and Will have a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah,
we'll be eating these cakes on these podcasts, doing a live review,
Yeah.
We'll be getting her on.
Well, she's called Northern Tart, if you want to look her up.
All the names out now, that's it. She's
I'm sure there'll be.
I'm sure we'll find her. I'm sure we'll try the cakes.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not fussy. I'm not fussy when it comes to cake. if it's cake, I'm not fussy. I'll eat it.
Yeah, well, that's like that in our house. Cake.
Yeah.
So I try not to when I do anything like this. I try not to name drop too much, because it feels really like.
It's not that they'll say, "Why have you not done me? Why have you not done this?"
And you can't remember everyone, and you can't mention everyone all the time. But as we were on the conversation, it's only fair that we put the name out there.
Well, everyone you're on, all you need to remember is Paul and Will podcast. That's the only names you need to remember. Forget everybody else. All you need to remember, just plug the podcast.
I do as much as I can. Yeah, I've even mentioned it on the radio a couple of times, so there you go.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
talking about the radio, how did that come about?
That was a
You
weird
don't
thing.
just pluck that out, do you? You just don't go, I'm going to go to the radio today and
See if
start
they've
to
got any jobs.
yeah, see if they've got
All
anything
about-
on.
Gives a job.
I'll just walk in and talk about horror. Yeah, go on,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Do you know what? It's not far off how it actually happened, I'll be honest. So a mate of mine, who she's coming to Horrorwood as a guest speaker. She runs a company called Junior Paranormal, and they do ghost hunts for kids, basically kids and
I've
their
seen
adults.
that. It looks really good.
Yeah.
It does.
She and she's a mate. Her and her husband run it, and their kids go along to a lot of their events, and she's amazing, Gemma. She's spooky and kooky, and I just love everything about her. She's my kind of people. So we had a little project that we were working on, that we're going to announce over the next couple of months, and so we were getting together quite regular and getting to know each other and stuff like that. And she said, "Oh, I'm doing this radio show, this graveyard shift on the local radio. Do you want to come on and just chat about, horror stuff? Because that's what she does on there, talks about ghost stories and things like that." I thought, oh, this is right up my street. So I've been on a few times, and she was like, well, we can talk about Horrorwood and we can promote and that. And so I went on that one, and then she does a Friday morning one that I went on a couple of times. So it's been about 3 or 4 times I've been on as a guest. And they were looking for volunteers because it's a CIC, the radio station.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So they were looking for volunteers to just sort of help with like writing the news stories, and generally just, they needed more hands on deck. So I filled in the form as a volunteer, not thinking about much else. And then I was on Gemma's show one night, and the boss who runs the whole thing, he has an office upstairs, and sometimes he's working late and he's upstairs listening to the program, and he texts down and he said, does your mate Kim want to do a show? I was like, she was like, do you want to do a show? I was like, yeah, why not? And it was just one of those weird encounters that I was kind of on there, helping her out because one of her guests had dropped out, and he'd heard me and obviously thought that I had a bit of a face for radio. So
well, I'm sure they didn't tell you that they were filming, because Will spotted straight away that you was in your pajamas.
Oh yeah, they had the cameras going.
Will's on the text. She's in the pajamas. He's like, is that Kim in the pajamas?
in the director's chart. Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought they were like security cameras. I thought it was just for the, so that they could, I didn't know it could be in like a live stream. I didn't know. So I rock up in my pajamas. I got my feet up on the chair, and I'm like,
you're like, tune in, guys. We all tune in, and Will's like, is she in her pajamas?
He sent me a screenshot on the group chat. I can see you. I was like, oh my god, so can everybody else. I had no idea. So yeah, it was just one of those random things, but it's something I've always wanted to do but never pursued. I don't know why. I guess I just figured that you needed to know more, like the technical side of stuff to be, I don't know, I just assumed it was something I couldn't do. I had no experience and I couldn't do it, so I never really pursued it, but it's something I've always wanted to do.
So what do you talk about on your show? And
so my show is nothing like the horror stuff. So I work in healthcare, as you guys know. People that are watching this might not know because they don't know me personally, but I work in healthcare and have done for 15 years or so. And I started up because I felt like I needed to do more. Like the whole world was hurting and everybody was depressed and ill, and I needed to do more about that. So I learned a lot of holistic trades, like aromatherapy and things like that. Just something a little bit out of the ordinary, not just your general healthcare sort of stuff, because it wasn't scratching that itch that I had to help people at that time, because it was just the way it was. So anyway, long story short, I set up like a wellness business. I branded it as the Lancashire Wellness Witch because I feel like, that kind of witchcraft side of things.
And you wanted to get horror into it.
Yeah, it just panders to my spookiness, and essentially.
You can't help yourself.
I can't. I'm just to put a big daft hat on and no.
Get your crystals out.
Well, I do crystal therapy. I do all that sort of stuff, and it's so juxtaposed to what we do in the NHS. modern medicine and like traditional methods, they don't really meet in the middle. They should, but they don't. So I started that up, and that's what I talk about on the radio show mostly. So it's called the Wellness Hour, and I go through things like herbal remedies, and I debunk ones that are just nonsense, and we talk about stuff that's actually useful. We talk about like trending things. You see a lot of influencers, oh, you know, take this remedy and it'll cure this, and so I do a bit of fact checking on that kind of thing. And then I have guests on as well. I have guests from like the local health authority. I had a lovely lady on a couple of weeks ago that runs a charity helping domestic abuse survivors. She works in law, and she was in a domestic abuse situation, and she got out of that, and then she's using her skills to help people that don't have access to that, you know, family courts and things like that. So it's not just all about lotions and potions. You know, we talk about community events that are going on and how people can get involved and look after their health in the community. So yeah, there's quite a few facets to my personality. I have a broad range of things that I'm into.
So back to Horrorwood. So as you said, you're not going to name all the traders because you can't remember every single one. But we've got Will board games going to be there.
With my horror
We've
games.
got myself.
Yeah.
Got myself doing autographs there.
Doing
We've got
your
guests.
autographs.
Yeah, we've got guests. We've got Craig, Quinn. We've got Reese.
Yep, Reese Ryan.
Yeah, we've got the amazing Danielle Renaud.
Yeah, I'm
which
so
I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
So people who don't know, she was in Winnie the Pooh, Popeye, all the horror that they kind of changed now. So that'd be amazing.
The Pooniverse, it's called.
The Pooniverse, yes. The Pooniverse. There's everything. They're doing Bambi. They're doing everything. But she was in the original Winnie the Pooh. She was one of the main cast, so that'd be great.
Yeah.
She's also
really
again
excited.
in Popeye, so that's going to be. And she's from Manchester as well, so.
Yeah, I think.
Again, that's keeping the community because that's
it's
what I
a
wanted
real
as well
big
to bring her
plus.
because she was from Manchester.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a
big
big
plus to
plus.
bring.
That.
Does she want to do the podcast?
And I think.
Maybe.
That's a secret. You'll obviously have a scare scream, I'm assuming.
Yes, we've got Murder House. Murder House Productions are doing the scare maze for us. So they've been with us for the last 2 years.
We'll have some zombies, will we?
Do you know that I kind of let them do their own thing? They have a lot of original characters, the Murder House. So it's all characters that they've developed. So they've got like a family of rednecks. They've got what else? So they've got like a Smoky Bee, like a pig butcher kind of guy. So they've got quite a few original characters. They might have a couple of zombies. I don't know. I tend to. They're very good at what they do, so I give them the space to do what they do best, and leave them to it. You know, they go wild, and that's their
As
thing.
you mentioned, the wellness there. Do we have anybody selling crystals or witches or anything like that?
Yeah,
or
there will be some people with crystals.
Potions, magic potions, or
Yeah, there'll be all sorts. We're going to do a little gore station as well, so kids that want to get messy can get in there and mess with some like fake gore and fake blood and slime and stuff. So yeah, just a little interactive element because kids love getting messy.
so there's interactives for the kids there and that stuff.
Yeah, there'll be a little mini scavenger hunt as well. So there'll be things around the hall. They'll get a list if they want it, and they can go to the gore station and get a little scavenger hunt list. And we've got some little goodie bags to give away if they find all the things. So there'll be little things for them to look out, like a skeleton, you know, in the corner, or you know, can you see a guy with a pig's head, you know, that kind of stuff. So normal kids scavenger hunt stuff.
Have you got an idea, Will, of what board games you're going to be bringing?
Yes. Yeah, there's
horror themed.
Yeah,
horror themed.
I actually sent Kim a picture, didn't I, of some of the games that I was going to bring. I probably won't bring Horrified because although it is a horror game, it's not that good. And I'll say that it's just not that good. It's all right, and it is a horror. It's like there's another version called the Universal Monsters, and you've got like the werewolf and you've got the Dracula, and you kind of you pick a different one each time. So it is really thematic and it's really good and it would fit well, but the actual gameplay itself is just a bit average, so I probably won't bother. But yeah, I've got loads of horror games and I'll certainly bring some of the better ones along.
Amazing. That's something I hope I get time to at least come and have a look at, what it's like on a board gaming table, because that's something I'm really interested in. And again, bringing back that community, and so it's kind of bringing you guys into my side of things, you know, that I do. And Paul, you've been a superstar. I don't think I could have managed a lot of the guest stuff without your expertise and your input, and I hope to bring people together to do what they do best in an environment that they want to be in, and that's it, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So as our time's coming to an end,
Yes.
where can people buy tickets?
So they're on our website. So if you head to www.distantscreams.co.uk, not .com, like I said on the live stream with me, I'll give out the wrong email address because I'm such a professional. It's .co.uk. There's a background there. There's links to the documentary. There's links to some of the gallery of past events that we've done, and there's a ticket box on there as well. So you can just buy them direct from our website. We use Skiddle as a ticket management company, but it's like an embedded ticket box, so you can actually go to our website. You don't have to go onto Skiddle and search for us. You can just go straight to Distant Screams, and you'll get your tickets there. You can also just rock up with some cash on the day and buy a ticket, you know, just buying on the door if you'd rather just wait.
So you're accepting cash on the day, yeah?
Yeah, cash on the door on the day. The only thing with that is, like any other place, if we've hit capacity on tickets before that, can't guarantee you're going to get in if you leave it until the day. But, you know, if there's room, there's an option there to do that.
So buy your tickets now, guys. I'm
Actually,
sure we'll put some links on.
Yes,
I'm
we'll
sure
put a link on
we'll
there.
do some magic.
Yeah.
So
What
we can
was
put
your,
the link to take it to there.
What's the name of the radio station that you're on as well? How
So
can people
the
find
radio
that?
channel, it's Roch Valley Radio. So it's a community radio, but it's on DAB, so you can listen to it wherever you've got DAB, on the smart speaker as well. However, I am told that if you want to listen to it on your smart speaker, you have to ask for Roch Valley Radio, because it won't, the Roach, it doesn't like it. It
It's
doesn't
spelled
find it.
ROCH, isn't it? So it's
Yeah,
not
so
like
it's spelled
Roach
like
like
Roch.
Papa Roach. It's Roach like Eros. ROCH.
Yeah.
Hey, we're touring
Yeah.
again, by the way. Papa Roach have announced to play in Manchester next year. No, the end of this year. Yeah,
I didn't know.
just thought I'd throw that out there. I went to see them last year, and they're appearing in Co-op Arena this year as well. So there you go.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
everything's happening in Manchester.
I know. Yeah,
Papa Roach, if you're listening, Wills, he's putting it out there. So
yeah, come on our podcast, Papa Roach.
Come on
Come on
our
our podcast. Yeah.
You don't know,
So-
don't ask, don't get.
Well, you never
You know, so before we leave, I know Kim, you only came on to do this.
Yes, 5 random questions.
The
Let's
5
do
random
it.
questions from the Alexa. So let's do it. Let's see what we get for you.
This is sat on the couch over there looking at me
Oh,
like,
look at that! It's like it was planned.
Go on.
Angels or
Oh,
vampires?
no way.
And I promise you, I didn't. That was universe. It wasn't me.
Vampires all day long.
Okay.
Apart from, what
next
about
one.
Angel, because he is a vampire?
Yeah,
Tough
that's a
one there.
weird one. isn't it?
Yeah.
He always has to go too deep, doesn't he?
I know, yeah.
Oh, come on. Universe, you need to get better questions, because these just feel like the fix now. Weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse.
No
No way.
way.
You know, where's the burgers or chips?
Well, I mean, as I'm such a big fan of his work, it'd have to be a Lucille.
I need to
It'd
shuffle.
have to be a barbed wire baseball bat, I reckon.
Right,
Not
look,
a
I'm going to do it
frying
on camera now, so it looks like I'm not cheating. And I wasn't cheating. Number 3, we've got... Oh, Fid's favourite kids' TV show. You mentioned that before. Didn't mention the TV show, but you said we had great kids'
yeah.
TV shows.
For me, I would say Thundercats.
Oh, my
Good
wife, I
choice.
like that.
Love-
She loves
love
Thundercats, yeah. I thought you might have been a gummy bear person.
I did like the gummy bears, but I think Lion tops it for me.
Oh, here we go. KFC or Nando's?
KFC. Nando's is overrated.
It
And
is, unless you
overpriced.
like Peri Peri, it's pointless, yeah.
And why is it always cheeky? Why is it always a cheeky Nando's? What's so cheeky about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. No idea. The last question is favourite movie.
Favourite movie? That's broad. Wow.
It is.
Jeez. I think for movie that I've watched multiple times and always enjoyed and never tired of, and recommend to people all the time, probably The Thing, the original The Thing, the Kurt Russell. Yeah, I would say that's probably, I mean, that's a broad question, but yeah, If I
Wasn't
had
mine,
to,
it was the universe's.
if it's like a desert island disc sort of thing, then I would watch the thing continuously during the apocalypse and not get bored.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
sounds
for
good.
joining us.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you
thank
so
you very
much, lads. I
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time out. But obviously, you're going to be busy this month preparing for Horrorwood 3 and doing your social media posts and
No, I'm just going to sit back and see what happens.
yeah. See if nobody turns up, at least you tried.
She's sold out now. Now the podcast's going to be heard. All the
Yes.
tickets are gone.
Yeah,
Sold
I'm
out.
still hoping that nobody turns up so I can have all the cake to myself, but don't tell anyone.
And you'll get a space at the board gaming table as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh no, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. So yeah, look forward to seeing who you've got next. You've had some cracking guests, haven't you?
It's
We
going
have.
well. Yeah, it's going
Yeah,
well.
good. Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
sayonara.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Take care. See you now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.